Many cities will compare to life in Minnesota. And tonight we begin with Joel Grover, who's written this report, A Tale of Two People in Two Cities.
High today of 70, low tonight of about 55. Rain was among 4 men arrested in connection with 18 Southside Slayer attacks. San Bernardino Freeway, westbound west of Dudley, we have something going on the right shoulder. Nearly everyone agrees LA's air is terrible. Virtual gridlock out in the Marina area.
This has been the promised land for thousands of Minnesotans. Many have fled the long winters back home for the endless summers in California. They came looking for the good life. So we came to California too, to see how life in Minnesota compares to the so-called good life in California. Nowadays, the good life also includes lots of crime and traffic and pollution. That's Los Angeles on what they call a very clear day. A lot of people are finding they pay a big price when they leave places like the Twin Cities for life elsewhere. That's the story of Jeff and Jim Slocum, two brothers who grew up together in South Minneapolis. Today, Jeff still lives in Minneapolis. He's a successful businessman. But Jim is now a film director living in Los Angeles with his wife Helen, an attorney.
I love knowing that the sun's going to shine most of the time. That you can count on it.
The Twin Cities are just a much more open and accessible kind of place. The little mundane, drippy details of everyday life are easier.
Take the traffic problem. It takes Jeff only 10 minutes to drive the 6 miles to his office in Edina. In Los Angeles, Jeff's sister-in-law Helen drives about the same distance to her office, but it takes anywhere from a half hour to a full hour.
Then I arrive at work very frustrated and tense.
Then there's the problem of crime. Actually, it's not much of a problem for Jeff. Living in South Minneapolis, he's never been a crime victim. But in Jim and Helen's Los Angeles neighborhood, burglary is a big concern. They have 4 locks on the back door. They've also had 1 car stolen, then they bought a new one, and then they had the stereo stolen out of it.
You just expect that to get ripped off. You buy a cheap and lousy one because you expect it to get ripped off.
I don't worry about somebody cleaning out my house and stealing everything. I don't have 6 locks on my door.
Then there's the cost of living. Jeff bought this large duplex last year for $125,000. Jim bought a smaller house in a similar type of neighborhood in LA for twice the price. Even that was a steal by LA standards.
We eat more budget gourmet. We enjoy peanut butter more to make ends meet.
Jim says that's the price he pays for great weather all the time. We'll let the pictures tell the story on this one. The week we found Jim picking oranges in his backyard in Los Angeles, we found Jeff keeping warm inside his Minneapolis home. The first snow of the season had just fallen.
I love the climate for about half of the year, and I think I'd rather be here than anywhere else. And then for the other half of the year, I think I'd rather be anywhere else.
According to our Eyewitness News Quality of Life survey, 84% of us don't want to move out of Minnesota. It seems as we enter the 1990s, most Minnesotans think the good life is right in our own state. Joel Grover, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
Do you need the police?
Hey, what a guy, right here.
There's somebody breaking into the car. This is Operator 730 with the police department.
Pounding on the door. He's threatening to beat me up.
Do you still have the gun?
Yes, but I would like to report a robbery, please.
Who's trying to kill your mom?
It's a warm November night, and Los Angeles police are busy as usual. Tonight in the 9th Precinct, there's just been a gang-related murder. It's the second one here in 2 days. This is not the ghetto of East Los Angeles. This is a nice middle-class neighborhood in the suburb of Van Nuys. This is also the neighborhood where I grew up some 20 years ago, right here on Hillview Park Avenue. Back then, this was a neighborhood much like those you'd find today in Minneapolis or Bloomington or Edina. It was a safe place to live. But today, unlike the Twin Cities, in this neighborhood, crime is changing the way people live. Meet Emily Chappelle, a former neighbor. She has bars on her windows, bars on her front porch, and bars across the front door. She put them there after finding a burglar in her bedroom. She says the bars are just a fact of life in crime-ridden Los Angeles.
In order to enjoy this beautiful sun and the great climate, we have sacrifices. You people shovel snow. We have bars on our windows.
In the Minneapolis neighborhood where I live now, there are no bars on the windows. People like Laura Schallbetter do take precautions, like locking their doors. She even carries a little can of tear gas. But still, she says she feels fairly safe living in the Twin Cities.
There's not as much problem here because I don't think there's as much drug trafficking going on here as there is, for instance, in the coastal cities.
Certainly there is a lot of crime here in the Twin Cities and across Minnesota. It's something that concerns everyone. But compared to the rest of the country, Minnesota is still a relatively safe place to live. Minnesota now has the 19th lowest crime rate in the country. About 4,300 crimes are committed for every 100,000 people here. That's well below the national average of about 5,600 per 100,000 people, and far below states like California, Texas, and Florida, where crime has people living in terror. Back in my old Los Angeles neighborhood, I found entire blocks now protected by electronic gates. And I found people like Helen Hurls, who now refuses to carry a purse in public. Instead, she uses a more secure kangaroo pack around her waist. But even that didn't stop two muggers in broad daylight.
They walked past me and turned around and threw me down and grabbed this.
Next door to Helen is Ann Carroll, who now parks her car on the front lawn because when she left it on the street, it was vandalized 3 times. And 3 doors from Ann lives Emily Chappelle, the woman with the bars on her windows. She tells me she plans her daily schedule to avoid being a crime victim.
We make the decisions of how we live based upon, is it safe to go there? Is it safe to get home? Will we be home after dark? And we make our life choices based upon our public and private safety.
Joel Grover, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.